Well, I've always written. I began when I was only 4 years old. I wrote essays at school and at university, and I wrote reports and all sorts of things in my work. Even accountants and insurance officers do actually have to write words as well as numbers. I've always liked words. I'm interested in regional dialects and foreign languages. I love the way English keeps borrowing and evolving. I also enjoy reading. Apart from mysteries, I love historical novels and enjoy P.G. Wodehouse for his use of words. It was only when I took early retirement and tried to start a business that I was encouraged to write blogs and articles to help get myself known a bit. Well, I found I was enjoying the writing more than any other part of the business. And I was surprised to find that other people actually enjoyed what I wrote. Some suggested I should try writing a book. Someone actually introduced me to self-publishing. Before that, I thought you actually needed a publisher. My first book was How to Avoid Being Misled by Statistics. Well, the title says it all. I hoped it'd be a help to some people. I get annoyed at the way politicians, journalists, advertisers use statistics. It not only misleads some people, it also makes others sceptical of all statistics and of experts in general. Well, I noticed that people were producing books, articles and documentaries about almost every aspect of the Great War, except for looking at the lessons for us today. Not for generals, but for businessmen and ordinary people. Yet I was aware of so many valuable lessons waiting to be told, so I told them. The first one is to learn your lessons. Through most of the war, both sides kept making the same mistakes. Another example is not to look for scapegoats such as conscientious objectors or imaginary foreign agents, but to ask yourself where you're going wrong. On the positive side, the big German push in 1918 that looked so threatening actually gave us an opportunity to counterattack, and that's what led to our final victory. We need to look beyond threats to see opportunities that they offer. Well, I don't know how traditional they are, but it's an American firm, Business Education Publishers. They're about to publish my book, Risk and Win. It's a simple guide to risk management for small businesses. They'll be marketing it to business studies students over there, but I hope it'll be a help to a lot of people on both sides of the Atlantic. Well, the world is full of risks, and we all need to manage them. We all do, all the time. Sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes well, and sometimes not. I hope to help people to be more intentional about it and more successful. Yes, I wrote How to Cope with the Church because I'm aware that a lot of people don't go to church for all sorts of reasons. Often it's not about their beliefs, it's about not fitting in or not being free on Sundays. For some people, it's about feeling awkward asking what they think will sound like silly questions. How to pray or how to read the Bible. They're not silly at all. People too often assume everyone else knows all about it. So I hope to deal in a simple way with some of these issues, as well as other questions people often have about God, but just don't know who to ask. I don't think I bring it in. It's there because I'm there. It's part of me. Well, not religion, but faith. Everyone has some beliefs, whether religious, philosophical, whatever. If you deny them, you're not being honest. You're not being yourself. They're bound to affect how you see everything. But I don't want to be irrelevant to people who don't share my faith. Being inclusive shouldn't mean being afraid to be who you are. But I'm proud of being British, but doesn't mean I dislike foreigners. Well, I've always enjoyed reading detective fiction, from Conan Doyle to Colin Dexter to Peter James. It was only after I'd written a few books that I began to believe I could try fiction. I realised I had wanted to for some time. I've got an inquiring mind. As an accountant, I enjoyed working in audit, asking questions. And as an insurance officer, I enjoyed investigating claims. In a whodunit, you can bring in all sorts of social issues, do all sorts of things. But the murder mystery itself gives you a framework, beginning, a middle and an end. All the rest has to be subordinate to the main story, whodunit. Well, Frank Hill is a self-employed accountant in Cardiff. He's investigating the convenient disappearance of a lot of money belonging to another, more successful accountant who's trying to hide it from his wife, who's divorcing him. And this leads into a murder investigation. And on the way, Frank and his teenage daughter Jane have to take on racist thugs, a dogfighting gang, and an aristocratic investment manager. They also have to work out whether a young pop star involved is as innocent as she seems. They've got to do all this before the wrong person is convicted. The hero is an amateur. Now, most modern fictional detectives are in the police. Now, I enjoy many of them, but I wanted someone who had to rely on old-fashioned detective work, using an inquiring mind and determination, not forensics or databases. We can leave that side to the police, but they get it wrong. Now, the hero's sidekick is his daughter. Their combination of youth and experience is part of their strength. But later in the series, his wife and son will play bigger roles. This might not always please him. The series is set in Wales, which has its distinctive characteristics, but is underrepresented in modern detective fiction. But this is the Wales of the 21st century. There are no sheep in the story. The second book in the series, Old Money, is almost finished. Frank and his wife Sian come up against some mysterious happenings in a castle where someone's filming a horror movie. And when they think it's all over, there's a murder. Now, as Frank and Sian get involved with the movie makers and with the deceased widow, their marriage comes under a lot of strain. And also, Frank, accidentally but fortunately, buys a horse. Now, in the next book, On the Slate, Frank and his daughter Jane find a body which disappears. All this while Frank is investigating a scam. I always get a lot going on at once. I get an idea and work on it for a bit, then I go back to something I was working on before. That helps when you get to a dead end. I still want to write some non-fiction at times, both about business and about Christianity, and perhaps other things. And I also write historical fiction in another name. My biggest challenge, that I'll be working on soon, is to write up my late father-in-law's diaries and letters from his time as a prisoner of war. It was during the Second World War. It's a story that needs to be told, and I feel a great responsibility. I suppose everything you read influences you a bit. I love Reginald Hill. He wrote the D.L. and Pascoe series. He showed his love of Yorkshire as well as writing great stories. I also loved how he used words. He could be erudite and earthy in the same sentence. Ruth Rendell showed that detective heroes don't have to have dark secrets or broken relationships. And Dick Francis shared my love of horses and could mix action with mystery. And of course, across the Atlantic, Patricia Cornwell was fascinating for her detailed knowledge of forensics, as well as telling intriguing stories, much like our own Val McDermott. I also like reading in other genres, particularly historical fiction. My favourite at the moment is Bernard Cornwell. I'm also grateful to Philippa Gregory for showing women as active players in history, not mere bystanders. In some ways, we think the same way on a lot of things, but he's not sure of his religious beliefs or doubts, and he finds them tested in some of the stories. He's an accountant in private practice, whereas I was in the public sector. But I have been self-employed for some time, and I know a lot of people in small businesses, as he does. But he's an Englishman from the northwest, living in Wales, in Cardiff, as I once was. We both love Wales and its people. That was always going to be the setting for my series of novels. Frank loves animals and hates crimes against animals, as I do, because he's younger and braver than I am. He's also better looking.